So you're welcome to this our Sundays class. So in this class you're going to learn the following: CSS colors, difference between transparency, alpha and opacity. Then I'm going to show you how to use the Figma to design a simple website from a Figma design. So exactly what you see on Figma. So without much loss of time, let's begin. So in CSS there are about four basic ways. There are more ways, but the four most common ones is this one. So you add a color by name, you add a color by RGB, you add a color by hex, and you add a color by HSL. So let's learn how to add each of these colors. So if you go back to our code, so we'll have a new markup here. So I'm going to put this one dot colors. So I'm going to put something like a h3 dot output by name. So name. So I'll put color by name. So shift alt arrow down 1 2 3. So this one will be color by RGB. So this one will be by RGB. Then this one will be by hex. So this one will be by hex. Then this one will be by HSL. Okay, so let's save that. So if we come down here, we'll have this like this. So let's tie the colors container a little bit, so it will be at the center. So dot colors, so the margin would be 20 pixels all around. Then the text align will be center, so everything will be at the center. Then you should have a border of solid green, pixel. So if I do that, I will have something that looks like this. Very nice. So now let's begin to add this color by name. So for the h3 inside the by name, so dot colors, so I'll have, this is the one that we have been used to, so dot name. So I'll change the color to white, then background color to brown. Then I can generally give them a padding, so instead of adding that every time, so dot color h3 should have a padding of 5 pixels. So if I do that, this is what I get. So I have a color of brown, I have a background color of brown and a color of white. So now the next one is a color by RGB. So we have the RGB. So the arrow here stands for red, the G here stands for green, and the B here stands for blue. So when you want to add a color using RGB, it can be a color, it can be a background color, but anything color. So for example, color, so I'll now put RGB. Now the highest value of this RGB is 255, then the lowest is 0. So if I want to add red, so I'll put red as 255, then I'm going to off that of green, so green will be 0, then blue will be what, 0. Now you see that one advantage of using hex, RGB and HSL is that you can have a variety of colors rather than limiting yourself to these few predefined one: brown, green, red, dark green, dark. So with this you can even have your own customized color. So that is how we do that. So if I want to add, for that I'll put .colors .rgb. So what I'm going to do now is I'll set my color the color of the text, I want it to be something unique, so I'll put RGB, then I'll put random colors 44 288. So it's going to mix that, and it has given me a green that looks like green but not full green. Then I'll have background color, I can have RGB 99, for 55. So I'll have that. So if I save, you notice I have this color. So that is it for the RGB. Then the next one I want to show you is that of the hex. So this hex stands for the same thing as in hexadecimal. So remember, this hexadecimal is a type of number system which is base 16. So it ranges from 0 to the highest value there is 15. So in hexadecimal, just a brief review. In hexadecimal, you present from 0 to 9. You represent them, say are represented with numbers as usual, so 0 to 9. But in hexadecimal, from 10 to 15 are represented with what? With alphabet or with letters. From A to F. So that means to represented So it then means here my A, and usually capital A, so my A will be equal to 10, B will be equal to 11, C will be equal to 12, then my D 10, 11, 12, A, B, C, D. D will be 13, E equals to 14, then F will be equal to 15. So you can use small letters, you can use capital letters. So there's also, just like the hexadecimal, the highest value you can have is still 255, then the lowest value is 0. But when you want to add a color using hexadecimal, this is how you do it. You say something like color, put your column, then you put your pound sign, then the first two value is like your red, the next two value is like your green, then the next two value is like your blue. Then any other value you see, it has to do with opacity, as we'll soon learn. So using that now, we can now play around with this. So using this basic understanding, but notice that if you go to the mathematics, if you already know the mathematics, if you add a value, so I can add 2a, 5f, 99, it will still mean the same thing. So by the time you convert the both of them, it will range between 0 and 255. So once you put 0, 0, it means that the value is actually 0. You put ff, means the value is actually 255. So if I come down here and I put dot colors dot hex, and I put color, so I'll choose random number, so I put my pound sign, C4, B3, A1. So this is just random colors. So you see it has arrived, I've arrived at that color. Then the background color, you can put, so let's make this one green, so RGB, so this will be 00 FF 00. So I forgot to put my pound sign, so this one will be pure green. So if we do that, we have that. So it's not looking nice, so let's alter this a little. Let this be AA. Also not looking nice. So we want something dark. 00 44, something dark. Okay, so see, it's now standing out. Okay, so the last one, so you can play around this. You have just like the RGB, you can use the HSL to generate new colors. So the last one is the HSL, so which I want to also explain, like, so whichever color method you're comfortable with, you use. But the purpose of this class is to expose you that it's not only by the color by name that you can add color. So in case you have been seeing this method of adding color, now you know their name and how it works. So the HSL, the H here stands for hue, the S here, which is stand for saturation, Then the L here stands for lightness. So the hue is actually, it is just containing a range of colors. So it's from, but this time around in degrees. So if I have from 0 to 179 can be my red. So this will fall into the range of red. That's your arrow. Then from 180 to 269 fall into the range of green. Then from 270 to 360 fall into the range of blue. So that is what the hue stands for. It just, so if you put any number, so and it must be one number, it must not be any one. You cannot add it. So once you put, if I put like 0 now, it means it's pure red. As I'm increasing it, it is changing the intensity of the red a little bit, but and it's tending towards green. So once it gets to 180 from above, then it will not become green. Then just like that until it gets to 360. Now the saturation here has to do with a shade of gray. So what amount of gray do you want to add to the color? Then this other one, lightness, has to do with like the brightness. So it tends, so this lightness tends from black to white. So why this saturation is a shade of gray, this one is the degree of lightness or brightness from black to white. So if the lightness is 0, that means it will just be off. That means you can't see anything. So let's test this out. So dot colors dot hsl, so color now, put hsl. So I'll use a different number, so 70. So this one will fall into the range of, so what I wrote, 179. Then comma, the shade of gray I want, I can put 0, but this one has to do with percentage. Then I want this one 40%. So now we see the color. So you see that if I save this now, I'll be having this. So if I move this to 0, it means I've off the color. So you see it's just entirely black. So there's no shade, there's no lightness. So if you add this at 0, see nothing is there. So let's leave it at that. Then if I leave it at 100%, see it's not so bright that it is not transparent. So this is how it works. So if you off it, so remember this, the L is the lightness. So if you put at 0%, it means there's no light. But when you on the light so bright, so all you'll be seeing is white. So that's why at 100% it changes to white. So what happens at 100% if the gray is still 100%? So you notice it's still white, so it's still transparent. So let's leave it at 0 and 40. Then the last one is the background color. So I can put 299 HSL 131. 131 is in the range. Let's use 280, 3% and 60%. So you notice the color now. If I change this to 270, so yeah, it's changing now. If you don't, you can use the color generator to just generate the color you want. So if I want something that is like good, so I'll just tap here, so it will update it for me. And if I save, something that looks like good. Where is it? Okay, it did not save. So I have to move it to that direction. Let's save. So that is how we add the colors. So this is how we add colors by name, by RGB, by hex, and by HSL. So the next part of the class has to do with opacity and transparency. So I did not add that. I forgot to add that in my slide. I just added it only in the outline. So the difference between transparency, alpha, and opacity. So let's demo that. So let's say in this our code now, let's use this now. So let's say I want this background to be reduced, but I want the color to be so bright. So that is the color by RGB. So if I go there, let me use opacity. So both alpha and opacity ranges from 0 to 1. So if you put 0, is like offing the light, so it will be so dark. But if you put 1, it will be so bright that you can see the brightest color. So it's somewhat opposite to what we are seeing in the HSL, which if it's 0%, you can see the dark, you can see the real color. But if you on the light so much, it will be too bright. So it's almost opposite. So I put here opacity 0. Notice what will happen now. Notice it's not so bright. So it just means that this is transparent, which is opposite of what we are seeing in the HSL. But if I put 1, it means the color the way it is. So if I put 0.2, notice what will happen now. See, it dims. So it's not so faint. So let me put 0.5. See, it's not brighter. But you notice one thing. The opacity is reducing both the background color and the color at once, and that is why if I put 0 here, I don't see anything. So what if I want to reduce the background color, but I just want the color to remain the way it is? So you see that opacity applies to everything, both the child and the parent container. So as long as you are a child of that, of the tag that is being targeted, it will apply it to all the colors, so that if you put a very low one just like this, it will become fully transparent. So it is for the reason that opacity is not specific. So but if you're using alpha, so RGBA, if you like to put it, but even though you don't put RGBA, once you put a comma and put the next thing, it's assumed to be the alpha. So this RGBA now, if I save, there will be no visible difference, but you notice we have the same output that we have before. So let's say I want to reduce the background here, so let me add here. It was here I wanted to add it, but I don't want the text to also reduce. So if I put comma here, remember alpha and opacity, they are from 0 to 1. So if I put 1, there will be no visible difference. But if I put 0.2, you notice that the background color reduced, but the color remains the same. So you see that using opacity, you can specify, using alpha, you can specify if you want your color to reduce or increase, or if you want your background color to reduce or increase. But opacity does both of them simultaneously. So that is just the difference. So we can use this alpha and opacity to do transparency. So what I want to do now is I want to add a background image to this my cards. So let's go to that, our cards. So we'll see how easy to do transparency. So I'll add a background image URL in quote / images and this. So if I do that, notice what I have here. So I want to do the following. So background repeat, should be no repeat, background size should be cover. So if I do that, I will have something like this. So let's say I want to give this blue here that we are seeing here a glassy effect. So remember, I'll come to my blue here. So if I come here and I type on this arc, I tap on this little dot here, it will change to whatever is there. So if I type here, I see it changes to what? To HSL. To hex. This one is to the HSL. This one is to HBW, which is a way of adding color, but it's not as popular as this. So I'll leave it as RGB. So I'll come here and I'll add my alpha. So let me reduce to 0.3. So if I do that, you notice I'll begin to see something that is at the background. So this is not a nice background image for this. So 0 point. So you notice, so I want to move this green now to this other part so that I will see the effect. So let me move it to left. So now we are seeing that it is transparent. I'm seeing the text behind it. So if I want to reduce the way I see the text, now you notice if I reduce it to if I reduce it to 0.1, notice it's not almost classy. So if I want to apply the blur effect, so let me show you that. Backdrop filter blur, so you can use it to add the main glassy effect. So blur, I add 2 pixels. So you notice that it is beginning to be somehow blurry. I increase it to 12. You see, it's so blurred that I can't see it, but something like 2 to 5 will give you that glassy effect. So you see, so that is how we do that. So if you change it to this other color here, the glassy effect will be effect more. So you see the glass effect. So that is the difference between alpha and opacity, and how to use alpha to do transparency or to create this glassy effect. So that is it for this. So the last part of the class is HTML with CSS Figma design. So to do that, let's open up our Figma design for your assignment. So Figma, yes, it's this one. So in just a few moments, the Figma design will load. Okay, so we have the Figma design now. So remember, in your assignment I told you to design exactly what you see from this Figma design using the level of CSS we've learned from this IT berries section to this. So that is your assignment. So I will not design everything, but the one I want to show you is in Figma. When you're working with Figma, your goal as a front-end developer is to design exactly what you see. So the first thing you have to know is how to get your CSS. So to get your CSS, once you open your Figma like this, you notice that it is on this comment section. So you can, once you want to get the CSS for this attributes like the font size, the font family, and other stuff, you hold your control key, you see it has been highlighted, and you tap on this. Now once you tap, it will automatically change to the properties tab. So I'm saying that the width of this container, which might be a H3 or a H4 tag, is this, the height is this, but please avoid using this. So avoid using this. So all you need is just the width and height. Now you might not want to use this width and height because there is nothing else here. So what you need to add is the line height. So you notice the line height gives this. But you might also want to add the width and height, because if you scroll down, so there are different ways you can design. So if you add the width and height, you have this default space that looks like a padding. Then there is no space between these two containers. So if I click on this, notice there's no space. So even if I hold my Alt key and move up, you see I'm not seeing any space. See, the space I'm seeing is from here to here. So even if I click this and move down, you see there's no space. So you might want to use the width and height. But now, because I've clicked this, I'll get the font family. It's Montserrat. The font weight is this, the size is this size. So I'll show you how to apply this CSS, but that is how you get your CSS. You hold your control, hover over the place you want to get the CSS or the properties about that particular stuff. So now if I click here, I'm getting only property for this text, not for this container. So if I click on this, it will show me the read more. So I can copy this and paste on my VS Code. I can see the font is Montserrat. So you have to download this as a Google font and add. The font weight is this, the size is this, the line height. So all this you copy and put in the target or whatever class or ID you use to select this, and to be styled exactly like this. Then for the border, you have to, so once you use your left sidebar or your panel, if you click on this, it will now show you that the width of the border is this, the height is this, but don't use this top and left. Then you copy this. So if you copy this, it's going to show you exactly how to add a border. So let me show you that. So if I do this and come to my CSS, any part in my CSS, paste, you notice how it will show me to just add the border for me. So just like that. So that's how it shows. So that is how you get your CSS properties. So you tap, you see the width and the height. So the CSS property might be divided into two. You have the layout, which is how to do with the width and the height. You have the content, which is the text. So now to type this might be too short for you, but what about this? So you might just copy and paste, and it will copy all these things for you. So that's the content. Then the typography has to do with the styling of the text to look the way it is. They also have the color. So the color is not here. So if you tap this, to give you this color as hex. So it's good that we've learned the type of color, so that if you see, now you know that this is a color that is being added here. Okay, so the next thing that I need to remind you of, which I've told you before, is how to get your assets. Now assets in your Figma file, they are like your images, your icons, and other stuff. So to get this icon, which is good for you to add using background image. You notice that from the Figma design, if you want to use CSS position, notice you have a slight overflow here, and an overflow is not what you want on your websites, because the first impression will be that is an error. So we want to target this with all of this. So once you move your cursor to the place where the image is, if it's difficult for you to locate, you hold your control and click. So once you click on any part of the image, you notice that this is not the entire image that you want. So I'll go to my export, press plus, press preview, and I will see only IT, but that is not what I want. So I will scroll up using my using my left panel and scroll down until I get that. So line this button. So you see this logo ITB. So that is it. So I can export this as PNG or as JPG or as SVG. So this is a very small image, so you can export using it as SVG. It's not as complex as this. So once you download this, so if you want to save this as an SVG, you just click on your export. Then I've already set my browser to ask me where I want to save my download. So if I save it in my downloads, so where is it saving? If I save it in my downloads, it will save it as logo ITB. So I will save that. Then all I need to do is to go to my downloads in my PC, look for that stuff. So I'll drag it now, then come to my Explorer, my images, and dump it there. So it will come as SVG. Nice. So that is how you get your asset. Now there are some images that you want to get. It will not come as a single file like this. So you have it will come as a zip file depending on how they added it to Figma. So you have to unzip it, look for the actual image, then you drag to your image folder just like I did here. So that is the step you use. So what I want to teach you now is, so now the next thing I want to teach you is how to get to your position. The last one is, so if I'm designing this for instance, and I've gotten my width and my height and my properties, everything is showing well, but I notice that there's a space between this about and this other part here. So how do I get this space? So to get that space, you click on this about container, hold your Alt key and move your cursor up. So you notice the space between this about me and the beginning of this section is 142 pixels. So to give that space, I'll use a margin top, because this is a space outside the tag, so it's a margin. So I'll give a margin top of 142 pixels, and I will add that. So since we now know how to get our assets, we now know how to get our CSS, we now know how to get our spacing, let's now design exactly what we see on our Figma file. So on a close inspection, you notice that this section that you're designing is very, very long. So if you hover, you click here, you notice that the width is 1920 pixels and the height is this. So let's begin with that. So I'm going to create a new page inside my views. So I'll call it portfolio.html. So I'll get my shift 1, Z, then I'll call it portfolio. Then I'll also create my external CSS. So portfolio.css. Now remember, I told you in your assignment that you should use this same folder structure, because even though the folder structure does not matter, but it is helpful when you're doing a complex project. So that's why I added it as the criteria for getting all your marks in your assignment. So you must follow the structure. Don't just keep things scattered. It will be confusing when the project is big, like when we are doing React. So it's still the same folder structure that you must learn to use. So it's a good practice from now. So we have this our portfolio, and from what we've learned, we need to link it here. So link, so I'll put that as /CSS portfolio.css. okay, so I'm not doing anything here, so I close that. So the next thing that I want to do now is in my HTML, I want to do some resetting. So that resetting will come just the way we did it. So put my padding to be 0 pixel, put my margin to be 0 pixel, put my box sizing to be border box. So that is my reset. I've done that. So the next thing I'll do is to put my HTML, put max width of 1920 pixel. So that's what I'll do there. And the next one is inside this my body tag. Remember, from our Figma design, we are not starting from the first section. So from this project, from the way it appears, there's a first section, and the nav is inside the first section as the first child, which is like the first box. Then there's a hero section here, which is like the second box. So it's in that first section that you add this background image, also this division, and that will look like this. So we are not designing this section. So we'll go to our VS Code and we'll add a section called section.2, or we can use section 2. So this is my section 2. Looking at the Figma design, is the one that has this width and this height. So I've already given it width, so that I won't keep repeating it. So that if I use a width of 100%, it is referring, I also refer to this. So go to our CSS. So I'll put dot section 2. If you still want, you can also add your max width. Now you don't use width, because if you use width, it will cause an overflow. But if you use max width, it will compress to fit the available width. So max width of 1920 pixel. This is not necessary, but just to show you. So if you want to be repeating it, you omit this. But because we've added this, we can just put width of 100% here, so it will assume the 100%. So whichever ways. So I will now have a height of 3017 pixel. So if I do that, if we go to our browser, so let me open this on my live server. So you notice we have that long scroll due to that 3017 pixel. So the next thing now that I want to do now is to add this background color. Now for future purposes, because this looks like the max width. So what you can do here is to add a min height, so that when you're doing the responsive part of this page, you will not need to come back to add this min height, because remember the project has a responsive part which will squeeze things, so they'll become more longer than usual. So if you don't add a min height, then that will cause an overflow. Okay, so we've done that. So the next thing is how to get this background. So if you hold your cursor, click anywhere within this outside here, it's going to give you this layout. So we've already gotten the width and height, so forget about the top. Then we'll come here and tap here. So I need to see copied, so I've seen copied. So let's see how that fares. So I'll go to my, so when you copy a CSS, you have to know where you paste it. So if I paste now, I've not copied the right thing, so let me go back. And this, I think this is the right thing now. So it should bring out everything that looks like a linear gradient. So if I paste, still the same thing. So let's see. Okay, let me copy that one that is there. And paste. Yes, so that will give me all the CSS out to give me this exact gradient. So if I save, you notice that if I go to my portfolio, it's looking almost the same thing like that. So that is it. So we've done that one, so we've added this. So the next thing that I want to add, so the next thing I want to add is this. Now is we want to add this our cover. Remember, this is the only one I'm doing, because from here to here is your assignment. So I want to add a H3 there. So let me minimize this screen so that will not be toggling, but only because of this Figma. So the toggling is what we'll be using. So I want to have this H3, so I'll get the text, and that is about me. So I've copied that. I'll go to my portfolio, come here, I add a H2, might be a H2, might be a H3. I paste. So now if I paste and go to my browser, I'll just see what, just see a H2. Okay, I think I'm not seeing the text because of this gradient. So let's try to add something. So let me test that. What is it? So see, I'm not seeing the H2. So I think that was why I'm not seeing it. So let me comment it out. So the next thing now is to style the H2. So dot section 2 space H2. So I need the CSS from the Figma. So I'll come here, I'll copy the width and the height if I need it. So let's copy that. If it does not work, we'll apply the CSS we know. So I'll paste that. Of course, I'll remove anything that has to do with top left and this. Then we'll come back here. The font the font family is Montserrat, but since I've already taught you how to add font family, so you add that, so that one is not an issue. So I'll just paste that one here. So but this will not take effect because we don't have that. So let's see if we can add that. That will not take us time. So the font family, I'll go to my let's see if I can see a search. So fonts, so I just put Montserrat Google font. So remember, the goal is to design exactly what you see on Figma. So even the font size can determine that. So I'll click on this get font, then get embed code, then I'll get this CDN. I'll go to my VS Code, my portfolio, anywhere within my head tag, I paste this. Then as a fallback, I need to use this. So that's only what I'll copy. The rest things will be determined by the CSS in Figma. So I'll go to my CSS. In place of this, I'll paste that. So actually what I'll be seeing now will now be the Montserrat's font. So if I go back here, you see I'm seeing it now. Nice. So the next thing that I want to do now is to add the border. So I'll click here and I'll copy the border. So if you're using your Figma, you see more than one CSS list like this, you use this copy here. If you tap on this like this, you're copying only 8 pixels. If you tap on this like this, you're copying only 4 pixels. But when you copy all of this, if you tap on this copy here, you copy everything. Actually, let's say for instance, I don't know how to use border now. So if I copy this 8 pixel, I don't know how to make it work. But if I copy this, I'm copying everything. So what I will do now is I'll go to my H2. Now this is where understanding CSS before you start to use Figma benefits you, because you know that this styling that I'm doing based on the output is still on my H2. I just want to add a border. So I'm not going to target another thing and start to add a border, because that will not work. So in Figma you have like 80% of the CSS available to you, but you must know where to place them so that they will work the way you want them to work. So if I come here, I see I have that border. Nice. So the next thing for me to do now is to place this at the center. So I'm going to put, remember from what we've learned, to make a container that is less than 100% at the center, you use your margin. So this is showing an error because this needs to end with a semicolon. So I put margin auto. So if I put margin auto, you notice the about me will run to the center. So this is not at the perfect center. This text has to be here. We've not learned flex, so we cannot do that. So but what we can use is a line height. So it has a line height. So I think that is exactly what we should be seeing on Figma. So let's see. So in Figma on, it is at the center. So let's see if there's anything. Copied everything right. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is this. We want to get the position between this and this. So remember that is not correct. So let's zoom in a little. Put the focus here. Zoom up. Hold your Alt, and that is 142 pixels. So to do that, I will now have a margin top of 142 pixels. So if I save that and go to my browser, I'll have this. So the last thing now is this guy has to be at the center. So why is it not at the center? So let me remove this letters. Okay, letter spacing is for letter spacing. So there's another way we can do that. We can use padding. So let's see if we can get a measure of space from the Figma. So if I hold my control here, then hold my Alt, there's no inner spacing. So I can use I know the line height to line flex. So normally in this situation I'll just use flex. Okay, so let's see the line height, except the line height parameter is wrong, which is not likely. So line height, so the height of the container is 76, so it should be minus. So it's meant to be half of that. Let me increase it to 58. So the line height is responsible for that perfect spacing, or placing it directly there. So let's reduce it to 48. Let's see. So I think 58 is just the right guess at this point. So this is a good example of understanding what each line of code means, so that when there's an error, you will not be guessing randomly. So with this, you have seen that I've designed exactly what I'm seeing on my Figma file. So you notice just the way it's showing here, that is exactly what I've designed. There's no extra stuff. So with this same approach, you're going to design these IT buried sections and this other two and stop here. So that is it for this video. So thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.